Hi, welcome to today's video. My name is Michelle Aubin, and I am a leadership coach helping heart-centered managers lead their teams to more productivity without burning out and with their teams having less stress. And so today I want to talk about how to include collaborative decision making into your process and to structure that into your weekly team meetings. This is the second part of the series where I spoke in a previous video about the idea that sometimes the team members can question your decisions after you make them, and that can be very defeating. It can feel very deflating, and so the idea is to incorporate your team as much as possible, whenever possible, into the decision making process before you make the decision. And so the time for them to share their concerns is not after the decision, it's before it. Okay, so I'm going to dive in a moment and talk about this, just recapping this idea that team meetings is a great way for you to do that, to structure that. So if you haven't already seen that other video, go ahead and watch that, and then you can watch this one and understand some of the concepts I shared there. In this video, I'm going to focus specifically on weekly team meetings. So the structure for the weekly team meetings is to have them regularly and have them be a very clear solicitation on your part of the team's involvement and to record what they share with you. So having them regularly is really important. This builds trust in your team that you actually do want to hear what they have to say. And I spoke in the other video about how sometimes people can come with a background of maybe sometimes feeling like previous authority figures didn't care what they had to share. But you are, as a heart-centered person, you do care what they have to share. You just don't want it to undermine you. So having them regularly is really important. The other thing is to send out a pre-meeting email so that everyone knows what you will be doing during the meeting, because this might be a new process for them. So you're educating them on what you will be doing during the meeting. And in this email, make sure to include the entire team. This includes people who work remotely, and it includes people who work part-time, so that if for some reason they can't attend the meeting, they have a chance to share their ideas. Okay, so if possible, do include them, even if you include them in Zoom or some other way. But if they can't make it for whatever reason, everyone has the chance to share their ideas with you during an email. So then what you do, you send out that email, you include the entire team, you let them know what your planned agenda is, and you solicit from them ideas they might want to talk about, in addition to what you have on the draft agenda. If people send items back to you, you can include it in your final agenda. If nobody sends ideas to you, just finalize your agenda with your own priorities. And then what you can ask them to do is to print out the agenda before they attend the meeting, or you can print them out and hand them to everyone. So what this is setting up is that everyone has had multiple chances to share with you things that are important to them. And then it goes on the agenda. They've gotten the final agenda, and they get the handout. So it's in front of them. Now, at that moment, if people raise their hand and say, well, I forgot to tell you I want to talk about XYZ, you can then put it on a whiteboard, or you can put it on a flip chart or something. So what you're doing there is you're acknowledging, okay, it didn't have a chance to go on the agenda. I'm putting it on this whiteboard. If we have a chance to get to it, today, after we go through these other things, then we'll get to that issue. And if not, we'll talk about it next week. Now, if someone brings up an issue at the last minute and in the meeting you do realize it's important to discuss, you have the option to move things around on the agenda in that moment. So, sometimes things slip their mind. They did want to talk about something. It is valuable to the team. You have the authority to move things around before you start the meeting. Okay. So then once everyone has the modified, updated agenda, then you can start your meeting. Okay. So as you go through the items on the agenda, you know which ones you have time to, some items might be, you just need to inform them of something. Other items might be longer term projects where you have time and space to invite that sharing from them. So then you can open up the discussion at that time and say, I need to hear from you. I want to hear from everyone. What are your thoughts? What are your concerns? What are your feelings? What are your criticisms or critiques? So you want to make it okay for them to share everything, not just the positives. You want to hear, and you can say to them, now is the time for you to share any reactions, any alternatives. Kind of use that language to let them know they have permission to poke holes in whatever you're discussing. You might, or someone else might have said, okay, what about discussing this planned idea? Now's the time to poke holes in it. So please do. And then what you do as the facilitator, you write down everyone's feelings, thoughts, concerns, criticisms, alternatives, hole poking, whatever. So you don't want to critique what they're saying in that moment. You just want to invite everything. Bring it on. We're going to write it all down. And then you can, once that process is exhausted or completed, then you can go into more of a collaborative decision making. Say, which of these do you as a team, invite other people to, kind of invite everyone to kind of get into that critique mode of like, which do you think is the best approach? Which do you think is the worst approach? And kind of help them figure that out with you. It doesn't mean you're going to make the decision with them. You're inviting them, though, to really get into like, okay, if you don't like this one, what's a better way to do this? And given, you can even kind of coach them along and say, given the limited resources we're working with, what do you think? What do you think this is the best way? What has gone well in the past? What would you like to see for the future? So kind of coaching them along. The whole meeting might not be about this, but you have a section in the meeting dedicated to this process. And when that part is done, you thank them for their sharing. And then you say, I'm going to take into account everything you all shared with me today. And I'll let you know what decision I made. And I really appreciate all your sharing. Okay. So this shows them you really do value all of their ideas. Now, keep in mind, if they are not used to doing this, and if they've had supervisors in the past who have been kind of critical of them sharing their ideas, and if you're the first person who's come along and invited them to share, they may hold back from going too deep. They may hold back from sharing things that are controversial. They may play it safe, which is okay. But just so you know that they may need to hear this from you a few times. They may need to go through this process on a weekly basis with different items. before they really trust that, okay, this person really means it when they say they want to hear from me. Okay. So this can be beneficial. This process can be beneficial for a couple of reasons. One of them is that it positions you as the authority because you're bypassing that resistance to authority figures. In the previous video, I talked about how sometimes people resist authority, and it could be anybody in that role that they're going to resist just because of coping mechanisms or some other defense mechanism. But in this, you are the one inviting feedback. You're the one writing things down. You're the one taking all of this in as you make your decision. So you are still the authority, but they have had a voice and their voices are heard. You will make better decisions because you have more information. You've anticipated problems that they may have helped you to anticipate problems that may not have occurred to you. So you're getting a lot more ideas from people. Always helps make a better decision. And it builds in accountability for each team member because if they don't take the opportunity at the right time to share criticisms, critiques, ideas, concerns, then they hopefully learn that the time, once the decision is made, that's not the appropriate time to do that. There is a time to do that when you invite it, but it's not appropriate after the fact because you can't change the decision you made. Oftentimes, it's too late for that. So they may need gentle reminding if they come to you later and say, well, why X, Y, Z? And you can say, well, we had a meeting about that and you didn't share that idea then, so I couldn't take it into account. But next time, please do share your ideas because I really do want to hear from you and I really do value everyone's contribution. Okay. So this also helps build more engagement from your team. Sometimes when team members are disengaged or demotivated, it's because they haven't had an opportunity to share their ideas. So this helps them feel valued and more engaged. It builds better communication from all your team members because in this open discussion phase, they get more interaction with each other. They hear each other's ideas, and that helps them learn about each other. And it builds relationships with the team, which builds a stronger team. So with that being said, I hope you find something valuable in this method and that it helps you. And I will see you in the next video.